I'm James Tucker with the A1 Daily News, and here's your weekly rundown. Earlier this morning, we had Swiss unemployment come out better than expected, dropping down to 1.9%. We also had Eurozone unemployment come out unchanged at 6.5%. Tomorrow, the Bank of Canada's governor, Tiff Macklem, is set to speak, and Jerome Powell, the chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, is also speaking tomorrow. That'll be at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and depending on what he has to say, we could see some shifts in U.S. markets. Australian CPI numbers will also be released tomorrow, but we have no big news on Wednesday. Thursday, however, we do have CPI numbers for the US at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch TraderNick cover the news event live right here on the A1 Trading YouTube channel. Finishing out the week on Friday, we have monthly GDP numbers for the pound.
All right, everybody, let's start off like we normally do, taking a look at the market heat map first so that we can see how our currency pairs and our other assets are trending so far today. So taking a look first here at our major pairs, these are our US dollar pairs, major US dollar pairs. We can see that most of our dollar pairs are up on the day so far. NZD USD, GBP USD, Euro USD, and Aussie USD all up on the day so far, with Aussie US being up 0.97% on the day so far, almost 1%, and USD CHF down 1.07% on the day so far. Our indices are all performing well, which is good. We have our major US indices here, the US 30, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ 100, all in the positive on the day so far. NASDAQ 100 being the biggest mover to the upside, up 1.65%. UK 100 only up 0.19%, but still in the green so far today. Oil is actually our biggest mover to the upside out of all of our assets. We can see right here, these are all of our assets listed. Oil being the biggest mover to the upside, up 2.64% on the day so far. And if we want to take a look at gold, XAU USD right here, we can actually see gold is also up on the day so far, up 0.59%. Let's finish up with the rest of our currency pairs. Here are our euro pairs, mostly up on the day so far. Euro USD up 0.96% on the day. Euro CHF down only 0.16%. Pound pairs looking fairly similar. Most of our pound pairs are up. GBP USD up 0.8%. GBP CHF down 0.27%. Our yen pairs, pretty much all of our yen pairs are in the green so far today. USD JPY being the one pair that isn't, only down 0.05%. However, CHF JPY up 0.99%, so almost 1%.
Struggling to come up with a trading plan of your own? Down in the description below, we've linked a form to gain access to our trading plan template. Fill out the form and a member of our team will contact you with the free trading plan template so you can create a plan that accounts for whatever the markets throw at you.
CHF pairs, our Swiss franc pairs, are not performing very well today. USD CHF down that 1.07% like we just mentioned, and CHF JPY being up 0.99% again like we just mentioned. Australian dollar pairs mostly up on the day. Aussie US up that 0.97%. GBP AUD down 0.21%. And our New Zealand dollar pairs looking pretty similar to that as well. NZD CHF being our one pair in the negative, down 0.38% on the day so far. NZD USD up 0.64% on the day. All right, so that was a quick look at how our currency pairs as well as other assets are trending so far. Let's take a look at the watch list, and I'm going to remove our neutral biases just so that we're left with our buys and sells. So there we go. These are all of the buys and sells that we have in the Edge Finder today, so far at least. And I'm also going to remove the indices and commodities just so that we're left with only our currency pairs, because that's what I want to focus on. So there we go. Not a whole lot of buys, only 3 buys when it comes to our currency pairs, and only one of them has a solid score of a +5, that's CHF JPY. We've got a lot of sells. We have 2 solid -5 scores with Aussie NZD and GBP CHF. But GBP NZD is our strongest sell and our strongest score out of all of these, with a score of -6 coming in today. So GBP NZD I think is what we're going to take a look at, just because it is our strongest score out of all of our pairs, a strong sell score of -6. So let's see GBP NZD right here. And yeah, so let's go ahead and break this down. Like I just mentioned, a score of -6 for GBP NZD, that is a strong sell bias. Our COT data is a -1 score, and our retail sentiment is actually a neutral 0 score. Let's get into the sentiment tab right over here. COT data is what we're taking a look at. This is institutional trader data. We can see that institutional traders are 69.43% long on the New Zealand dollar and 30.57% short. And on the pound, they are 40.56% long and 59.44% short. So institutional traders are fairly heavily favored long on the New Zealand dollar, and they're slightly favored short on the pound. We actually don't consider something to be favored long or short until it crosses a 60% threshold. So the pound has technically not crossed over that 60% mark for the short side, meaning that we still do score it neutrally as if it's 50-50, although we can see that there is a very slight favoritism on the short side when it comes to the pound. Retail traders, we can see this is actually supposed to be 59% long. That's why we have this neutral bias right here, because it's not actually leaning one way or the other. It has not actually crossed over this 60% threshold. We can tell because it's 41% short and it has that neutral bias. So this is actually supposed to be 59% long. We're going to get that fixed. But yeah, so retail traders are 59% long, 41% short on the pair as a whole. Taking a look at our seasonality, we can take a look at our last 10-year average and our last 5-year average. We can see that both of those numbers are in the green up here, meaning that historically speaking, when we average together the last 10-year price points and the last 5-year price points, this pair does perform fairly well in the month of January, meaning that it is fairly bullish in the month of January, creating new highs. However, we can see that in the current year average, that has not been the case so far. But we do see that in February and March, if we take a look ahead, we can see that in the last 10 year especially, it drops. And in the last 5 year, it stays neutral, but then drops. So historically speaking, it is kind of staying. It is kind of following that trend, being bearish in the beginning of the month. So we'll see if that can continue. Our trend reading is a score of -2, and we can take a look all the way back here to December 21st, and we can see that it's pretty much just been consistently moving lower and lower, just making steady moves to the downside. Pops up just a little bit here, nice long move to the downside, shot back up again, but has been moving lower ever since then. This was January 5th, so for the past 4 days or so, it's just been moving lower and lower, and our price forecast says that based on all of this data here, it predicts that that will continue to be the case. Lastly, we're going to finish up with our fundamentals. We can see that GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates are all scores of -1, meaning that the New Zealand dollar is beating out the pound in all 4 of these metrics right here. So our fundamental section, we can see that GDP growth for the pound is at -0.3%, 2% for the New Zealand dollar. Pound unemployment currently sitting at 3.7% compared to 3.3% for New Zealand. Pound inflation 10.7% compared to New Zealand's 7.2%, and lastly, pound interest rates 3.5% compared to 4.25% for the New Zealand dollar.
The dollar down here pretty substantially. Look at this. You could see this idea that I had in terms of potential bullishness for the dollar totally fell apart. I didn't take any trades there. Actually, yes, I did. I took a Euro USD short, and you can see that bet on the dollar totally fell apart, and so I cut that trade pretty dang quick. Here's the dollar here today. We're taking a look at the daily chart, which is back down to the lows. Dollar continuing to show just incredible weakness here as the year gets going. Which, of course, a weak dollar has the potential to help some other areas of the markets. For example, the stock markets. We could take a look at some of the other currencies. You know, you've got things like NZD USD, AUD USD, Euro USD. These things are going to benefit from a weakening US dollar. And so with that said, we've got a lot of stuff to look at. I'd like to start, like I said, with the dollar. Coming down here today, we are back down to the lows. And if you're watching the dollar and you're saying, you know, is this thing bullish? Is this thing bearish? Well, I would say that if you're looking at a 4-hour chart, it's pretty clearly now back into the bearish camp of things. And in fact, as we come down underneath the lows here, you might actually get opportunities now to be on the short side of this thing. In my personal opinion, the dollar looks really incredibly weak and might actually be due for some continuation moves this week. This candle, I mean, look at that nasty red candle. For the bulls, this was what you would call sort of a wipeout event for dollar bulls. who are trying to catch this breakout. Again, I tried on my end to catch a little bit of the swing to the upside, but completely fell apart there for me. So unfortunately, that trade did not work out, but we've got several other trades going on as well. So we'll talk about those in just a moment. Here is the dollar. And like I said, a big level of resistance, support coming in here today. And we've got a long ways to go before there's any sort of pullback play, in my opinion, as I don't like the idea of just shorting this. Although from a technical perspective, it's not the worst idea, in my opinion. You've got this big red candle. I'd like to see some relief rallies to potentially look to sell into. Now, of course, you've got this key level. If you're very bearish on the dollar, there might be something like this, and this actually could be a potential setup. So we'll draw from our fibs from swing high to swing low. Simple technical analysis is all we use here on the stream. We don't get super fancy with it. We use fundamentals, sentiment, and technicals. A dash of each is what I'm able to use to find my top trading setup. So there's the swing high to the swing high to swing low. Price pulling back here to the 38.2. That might offer you a little bit of a pullback play going into this week on the US dollar, looking for continuations to the downside predominantly. And so we'll take that with us as we go around the room and take a look at some other examples. Can you check Doge? What is Doge doing nowadays? Look at that. Doge up to 7 cents, 8 cents. That's wild. Wow, that's actually I think the Bitcoin world is also doing a little bit of craziness here today. Yeah, Bitcoin is having a little bit of a revival from the lows. We are currently, if you caught the absolute lows, we are up 11.5%. So hey, that's something. Not personally trading or investing in Bitcoin at this time. I'm personally much more interested in stocks, looking at I bought some Tesla recently, like very recently, and I think I'm in profit now, which is funny. This is more of a longer term investment. I've owned Tesla for a number of years, but with the recent crash in Tesla, I've actually picked up a little bit just to see. Look at that, like 18% off the lows already. That is crazy. Very, very volatile stuff. Just bought a tiny bit of that to put in the portfolio.
Make sure you guys check out the links in the description if you need broker recommendations, access to our free Discord, or want to chat with us on Telegram. If you're interested in our trading software, the Edge Finder, you can find that in the description as well. Thanks for watching.